Welcome to On the Beat, where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every week, exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network.
Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into On the Beat, brought to you exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe, a show where we bring you an exclusive interview with a different Bills beat reporter or journalist every single week, and we talk about the topics swirling around our beloved Buffalo Bills. My name is Joe Miller, and you can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, alongside my co-host right there, former Buffalo Bill Jerry Ostrowski. I always call him the Swiss Army knife of the offensive line. You can find Jerry on Twitter at Ostrowski_Big O. And we are so excited that you are joining us for this very interesting episode, as we've got some good, interesting stuff to talk about. Some breaking news as far as that goes. But whatever platform you are tuned into, if you're watching us live right now on YouTube, please like. Please subscribe. If you're listening to this in post, in podcast form, please like, please subscribe. Do us a favor, as Jerry always says, if you subscribe, it gets our numbers up, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to boost the numbers, right, Jerry? That's what we're trying to do up in here.
That is correct.
But now joining us, sports director from Channel 4 here in Buffalo, Josh Reed. Josh, we're excited to have you on. My friend, how are you doing?
Hey, boys. Doing really well. Thanks for having me on. Is it possible that Matt Milano got on this before I did?
Matt's been on twice.
Matt Milano's been on twice.
Really?
Yes.
He got twice.
It's because of the
finally my turn.
It's because of the
what.
It's the
I take issue with that. No, I'm just playing.
Well,
Matt's my guy.
You got to step your hair game up real quick. If you're
Well, I'll tell you, not many people are matching that hair game. Many. Matty's my guy, though. No, thanks. But seriously, though, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it. You guys do great work. You know, I check in on you guys every so often, and you guys are definitely one of the ones to follow for sure.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, we are going to jump right in because there is, as I kind of said earlier, some breaking news around the Buffalo Bills. Matt Milano was injured in practice today. You were there, so I don't know if you want to take us through what you saw, what you felt, or what you heard, or just however long it takes, take us through it, because this is important.
Yeah, this is really big. Obviously Matt's already coming back from the leg injury. So, immediately when you see him over talking to trainers, your mind shifts automatically into, oh boy, oh
right.
No. And then this was between some of the individual work and before they went 11 on 11. And he was sitting up on the table and, the trainers were working on his arm. So immediately you go, okay, well, that's probably better than them looking down at the lower half
right.
on the leg, obviously. And he just kind of did some of these just where he was kind of flexing it a little bit, and they stretched him out a little bit. You couldn't tell exactly where they were looking. I'm not sure if it was elbow, shoulder, but it was definitely, in this range. I don't know if it was maybe forearm. One of the things that then they took his helmet and he was done for the day, which that could have been just being overly cautious, which I think we would all agree. It's the middle of August. There's no reason for Matt Milano to go in there. Quite frankly, if he has an ingrown hair, I'm fine with Matt Milano sitting it out. So, but it was interesting though. They talked to him for a while, and then he got down and actually did a push-up just to kind of test maybe some of the strength and just to see. And he did it easy. Like he did one of those down slow and then up.
That's not a torn bicep, because that's what I saw. It's not a rupture.
Well, I think that it could be a torn bicep, but because but usually that's something along the lines of a pec injury or possibly a triceps injury. And that's the thing that always worries me about Milano, is being a former safety, a bulked up guy. When he's done playing, he's probably going to drop 40 pounds, right? And it's not necessarily – that's why last year's injury to me was such an anomaly. You don't expect a guy like Milano to get bone injuries like that. It's soft tissue type stuff, those twitchy, bulked up guys. And him doing push-ups on the sideline would lead me to believe he might have aggravated a pec.
Yeah, like I said, he went down, did it real slow, pushed back up. It didn't get up, didn't seem to have any, any pain with it or anything. And they kept looking at it, and then that was it. You know, he didn't get his helmet back. You know, it was one of those, you're done for the day. This is August, and let's see where it goes from here. But yeah, it was interesting because they did, like I said, they did some flexing stuff and some, you know, mobility kind of like this type of thing. But I mean, hopefully, like I said, hopefully it's just them being a little overly cautious, and then we get them back out there. Dorian Williams, as you can imagine, took his spot in the lineup, playing next to Terrell Bernard, and I mean, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe he gets pushed out there a little earlier than they would have liked to, and maybe he gets some really important reps early in the season. And if Matt does have to miss any time, you know, we've seen it happen before. This is the nature of the beast in this league. But I mean, Matt having the leg injury and now whatever this is, you know, it starts to creep into the concerning range of things because Jerry, your point is so spot on. I mean, you got a guy who has had to bulk up to play the position he's playing, and he still isn't exactly the biggest linebacker in the league. So he takes a pounding, and pound for pound, the Bills have two of the toughest guys in the NFL. With Taron Johnson and Matt Milano. Those two guys, pound for pound, are as tough as anybody in the league.
Yep. So what is the expectation at this point as far as hearing from the Bills? I mean, I doubt we're going to get a Brandon Beane press conference out of this. Is Coach going to come back to the podium tomorrow? Is it just going to show up on the blurb like, oh, Matt Milano, arm?
Yeah, we're not going to hear from them tomorrow at all. They're off tomorrow. Tomorrow they travel to Pittsburgh to get ready for that joint practice on Thursday. So my guess is the earliest we would get an update will be Thursday, unless something gets leaked out by the national guys, which we all know is quite possible. But I will say this, the longer there is no news, that's good news, because if it's something bad, you and we all know that the national guys will have it pretty immediate.
Except Twitter's going to burn until we hear something. But go ahead, Jerry.
I don't know. I'd have to think that if it was something major, they probably would have got him off the field ASAP.
Yeah,
the fact still stayed out there. But I kind of would think that we might not see Milano again until game one.
Right.
I mean, he might practice, he might do whatever, but as far as preseason games go, why take the risk?
Yeah, and I don't think you need to. I don't think anybody needs to see him. Right? He's so familiar with what Sean wants to do in that scheme.
Yeah.
And outside of the reps that you'd like to see him get next to Terrell Bernard, because that's all new. Because, you know, obviously he's used to Tremaine, like that's who he played next to the whole time.
Right.
But outside of those reps, Matt Milano, individual pieces, Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard, no worries, right?
Right.
Getting that chemistry, that back and forth, they'll get it. They're both very intelligent football players and very skilled football players. I think they'll be just fine.
But I don't, you know, kind of compounding on that, Josh, my feeling about it is I wouldn't play Bernard Harley either. I mean, I don't think, to me, Dorian Williams would take every single freaking rep of every preseason game we had until they left.
Inspector.
You know,
Bail Inspector,
Yeah, I mean, I think he should be on the field 99% of the time. Have some of these other guys out there. That's one position where we know the first two are really, really good, but we got to build depth at the linebacker spot. So now's the time. Let's not risk injury. Let Dorian and the rest of them play, and let's figure out who can hop in if we, by God, you know, you have to have them.
Yeah, and in Dorian's case in particular, I think the sheer pure athletic ability is there. I think once the game slows down for him a little bit, I think he's going to be just fine. I think it's good. I think his head spins at times still a little bit, but the athleticism is there. The ability is there. Harnessing it and kind of bringing it into the fold is another thing.
Yeah, we used to always say, does your mind really believe what your eyes are seeing? And he's still out of sync in that area in some cases.
But that's reps. That's how you get that. That's all reps. And to your point, okay, put him out there for 4 quarters of the preseason game for 3 straight games. Let him get all those reps.
Yeah. I'd like to know what you both think individually one at a time or all, at the same time, just as far as like the league seems to be going to, and the Bills have kind of been out in front with this idea of smaller linebackers, whether it's 3, 4, or even 2 in the nickel 4-2 that the Bills play. but it just also seems like it lends to, these guys getting hurt. I mean, Milano has been hurt. Bernard got hurt. I think Dorian Williams had some tweaky stuff last year too. Like, how sustainable is this, Jerry, Josh, in your opinion, just as far as like, if the league goes to smaller linebackers, can they hold up? Or are you going to need 6 of these guys?
Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Yeah, quickly, I'll say that one of the things that we always hear Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane say is positionless football. They are firm believers in that. That is part of their core belief system. Is they want guys who can kind of do a little bit of everything. Even on the other side of the ball. Look at Keon Coleman. They talked about, when they were asked about him playing the X, playing in the slot, playing all over and he said, they were like, look, Joe Brady said it's concepts. We want him to learn concepts, not a position. And I think that goes for both sides of the ball. You look last year, how often we saw, obviously a little different situation because you had Micah, Jordan, and Taylor Rapp, but there were times when all 3 safeties were on the field together. We saw that a lot, especially toward the end of the season when they were trying to figure the linebacker thing out. So to your point, I don't think the size of guys matter. They want guys who can. It's chess pieces. The NFL has become a game of chess pieces.
Right. How many queens can you put on the board, right? That can do anything.
And I think also too, it's what is your defensive philosophy? How do you want to play the passing game that has now become so extremely prevalent in the NFL? Very, very seldom do you get teams that are going to run it down your throat anymore. There's still those teams. They're going to practice with one this weekend. Yeah. But, they want their linebackers to be able to play coverage, but in a different way. Unlike what Leslie Frazier had in a pure Tampa 2 middle linebacker with Edmonds, they do things a little bit differently. So, yeah, I mean, I could see it being a concern, but, man, they make a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage, those two.
Yeah, for sure. Talking with Josh Reed, sports director for Channel 4 here in Buffalo. So good to have him. Let's transition now. The Buffalo Bills made some official moves here between yesterday and today. It kind of leaked yesterday, and then they were made official today. So what have the Bills done? What should we look forward to? And I guess who's not gone, but who's been – some guys went to IR, and then kind of who are the new guys that are joining the squad?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two bigger moves were the IR guys, one being Chase Claypool.
Right.
Because I think, the wide receiver position going into, whether it's training camp and now the preseason, the wide receiver group, we've all talked about it ad nauseum, no matter what your platform is. Radio, newspaper, podcast, like it doesn't matter. We've all talked about it so much.
Yep.
But Chase Claypool was one of those guys that I think we all fully expected to have a legit chance to win one of those last 2 wide receiver spots. And he was dinged. He was dinged early in camp, and then that was it. Now he's on IR.
Josh, I got to ask you, I know there's a lot of people excited about Claypool early, had a great offseason, the OTAs and all that and such, but do you think this is an opportunity for him? This guy's had a really tumultuous early career. He had early success, then he bounced around, a lot of naysayers. He got a bad reputation. Is this a chance if they leave him on the IR and they don't work some kind of buyout out in the next, 7 to 10 days? And then I've heard once he clears that, they could then re-sign him and bring him back on to where he'd be eligible in 3 games because he's an established vet. But when you look at his career, is this a chance to take a guy that's had some troubles, put him in a locker room that has an unbelievable culture, and get him with these guys for a year and let him work and kind of reset to try to, re-energize his career and be the receiver that everybody felt he would be coming out of college?
Possibly. But here's the devil's advocate to that is, this, when you're a professional athlete, you want to play.
Yeah.
Right.
That, there's a finite time of being in the NFL. And you don't get younger. Father Time's undefeated, except for LeBron James. That's still being determined. That's the only one still in the ring with him. But yeah, I mean, I just think that if Chase feels like at some point he's healthy, the Bills are going to have to release him, and that's going to be what it is. I don't know. I'm with you. The whole culture thing, there's no doubt that I think that he buys into what the Bills want to do in their sounding boards that they have. And Sean spoke so highly of him immediately, like during mini camps and stuff. He praised him. So I was disappointed to see him go down with the injury because I thought for sure. In fact, in my mind, I'm thinking, there's a chance that he leapfrogs MVS at some point because we've really seen him do it. His first 2 years in Pittsburgh were really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Were really good.
Really good.
And man, this is what an ideal situation for him to come and play with Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about, you want a chance to sign a 1-year deal and get your career back on track? Right. John, there's a lot worse quarterbacks. There's probably 31 worse quarterbacks, 30 worse quarterbacks you can go to and play with to try to get your career back on track. So yeah. I was very hopeful for Chase Claypool. It was a bummer to see him go down, and now we'll see if they end up doing any sort of injury settlement or not.
Staying on the wide receivers just for one more question. All we heard out of camp so far, specifically from you guys, from the beat reporters, was Tyrell Shavers. Like this seemed like there was this momentum building, not only as a wide receiver and making big plays and in the return game. And then all of a sudden the depth chart drops and it's KJ Hamler. And we're all like, wait, you guys have been lying to us. Yeah. And then KJ Hamler comes out in the game, drops a pass, muffs a punt, and then the Bills go out and they sign Damian Byrd. What do you know about that situation? Is this a jerk of the chain for KJ Hamler? Is this a camp body, or is this a guy that maybe has a shot? Because my understanding is he doesn't have a whole lot of reps in the return game in his career.
Yeah, let's start big picture, and let me tell you that big picture wide receiver, and let me say that today as we sit here this on a Tuesday, as we sit here, Andy Isabella had a ton of reps with the ones.
Wow.
So the wind is switched. It's blowing from west to east. You know what I mean? Now Thursday during practice, it could be going west to east. It could reverse on us, and it could be right back to Shavers.
Right.
I mean, they are mixing and matching a ton. I mean, we all know those 4 top guys that are in, with Hollins and Coleman and Shakir and Curtis Samuel. Those 4 guys are in. So they're giving everyone a shot.
Right.
Almost like you just want one of these guys to take it.
Yeah.
Grab it and just say, this is my job. No, you're not. But it just hasn't happened. You feel like MVS will get deep down the field and practice. Josh will hit him, and then he'll drop 2 passes later. Yeah. And then it'll be Andy Isabella's just this guy running on the third team, and it's just an afterthought. And then all of a sudden in practice, he'll be he caught a beautiful ball from Josh Allen today, and I'm like, all right, I guess we're going with 87 back. Like, which way is the wind blowing today? But I mean, to their credit, though, if they don't feel like they have an answer, you got to give all these guys a chance until the dust settles.
Right.
You can figure it out. Look, KJ Hamler, now back to the specific question. KJ Hamler, to me, that was my guy. That was the horse that I rode in on.
Nice.
Camp. I was like, KJ Hamler is going to win this. I got this vibe from Brandon Beane post-draft when everybody asked Brandon, why'd you only take 1 receiver? You used all of these draft picks and throw a dart at a couple other guys late in the draft. And he was like, look, we feel like we did some things in the offseason to help booster. And he brought up KJ Hamler specifically and talked about how injuries have been a little bit of it. And we feel like if we can get him healthy, he could be somebody who helps our roster. And I'm thinking, there we go. There we go. He's got a skill set that not a lot of the other guys have in that wide receiver room. So I'm thinking, okay, KJ Hamler, this is the guy. This is the horse I'm going to ride in on to training camp at Fisher. Right. And then I'm looking around. I'm like, where's KJ Hamler? Then, to your point, then he's number 1 on the depth chart, kick return, punt return.
Right.
And I'm thinking, all right, my guy's going to get his shot now. Here we go. Muffs the kickoff, and I'm like, this is not going well. This is not going well for me. So I think what they did is they brought in another guy to say to him, look, we put you first on the depth chart, kick return, punt return, but you better stay there. That's up to you to stay there.
Right.
Well, is Andy Isabella running with the ones more indicative of the fact that they're just absolutely, for lack of better terms, clueless about the returners? Or is he actually working his way in? Because Isabella does also return kicks.
Yeah, and I think he is a player that they know his upside. They know what he can do. I think they trust him,
right?
But they know what. So I think it's a matter of, hey, these other guys that are newer, let's really run them out there, really put them to the test, and then find out what their upside potentially could be. That's my opinion. If I'm in the coaching staff and in that room, I'm going, hey, look, with Andy Isabella, he's been around here long enough. We know what the upside looks like there.
Right.
But what's the upside for KJ? What's the upside for Shavers? They have a pretty good idea on it as well. But so the MVS is the guy, the Chase, who obviously was barely on the field, but like run the new guys out there as often as you can and get an idea. Hey, is the upside a little higher on one of those guys?
Yeah. Talk with Josh Reed from Channel 4 Sports Director. Transitioning now to quarterback. I'm not necessarily one, and I talked about it on the postgame show for us here on Overreaction, that I'm not exactly settled with either Trubisky or Shane Buechele, but Shane Buechele got injured. The Buffalo Bills went out and signed Ben DiNucci to be that third guy. What do you know of Ben DiNucci? Obviously he's coming in to run the practice squad, but it feels like the Bills like Shane Buechele. It feels like there's a tie there, if that makes any sense. Just quick thoughts on that move that the Bills made.
I'll tell you how much they like Shane Buechele. Once again, going back to post-draft and hearing from Bean, I asked him, I was like, hey, you had all these late round draft picks. Is there ever a thought now that Josh is the veteran quarterback?
Right.
Like, you need a veteran to back him up. He is veteran voice in that room. Was there a thought of maybe taking a younger guy and knowing that, hey, this guy's probably 2 or 3 years away and you can kind of develop him, slow play it, not even worry about it? And he said that they actually talked about it and thought about it. But at the end of the day, they feel like Shane Buechele is that guy for them. They think that he is that guy. Well, obviously Shane goes down now, and so they bring in Ben DiNucci. So I'm going, all right, I know the name. There's not a ton of Ben DiNucci's running around that I've heard of. So I'm looking back. I'm like, okay, spent some time with the Cowboys for a couple of years, XFL last year. Had a chance to actually talk to him as he was coming off the practice field today. Talked to him for about 5 minutes. You could tell his head spinning still. He said that he flew in midnight Sunday. He said Monday he had his workout. Monday afternoon he signed. And Monday night he was in meetings.
Wow.
It was like and he said that this was one of, I think he said 5 or 6 meetings that he's had. He was in the middle of watching the Olympics when his phone rang on Sunday. His agent said, hey, the Bills want to give you a chance. And he was like, I was on the plane and heading out, and asked him a little bit about just kind of what he expects out of himself. I mean, you got a preseason game coming up in a couple of days. And, when you talk to him and when you talk to Joe Brady, they both are very realistic on there's going to be a condensed. If vanilla could be more vanilla in the preseason, that is what Ben DiNucci is going to run. Like, they probably will have a half dozen play calls in for him that'll be runs and maybe 2 pass plays, right? I mean, it's going to be pretty basic, but how much time is he going to get? We don't know. They haven't announced it, but I mean, to expect him to do much than maybe the fourth quarter would probably be a stretch. But he seemed like seems like he'd be a good fit. That's the other thing. The Bills are very conscious of bringing in the right fit.
Right.
I mean, you want Josh and Mitch, a couple of veterans who have been around the block and done it. They're going to make sure that they get a guy in there that fits the culture and fits the room. And I asked him, I said, what, you guys talk around the league, the quarterbacks. I said, what's kind of the talk on Josh Allen, and getting to meet him first time? He goes, well, I'll tell you, he said, I'd never met him. He said, the talk is everybody knows how good he is. He said, I couldn't believe how tall he is. He said, he's 6'2.5". And he goes, I walk out on the practice field and I look up and I'm like, you're a monster. And I'm like, yeah, that's that is QB 17 for certain.
That's interesting that they had never met before. We had actually talked on the program here just about the fact that it feels like the Bills bring in guys that are close to Josh, and Jerry and I were kind of just talking through whether or not that's a good thing. Maybe it's not the best thing that Josh is great for. I know you want great chemistry in that QB room. I know you want guys that can probably connect with Josh and say, hey, you're wrong in that situation, or you're versus somebody that feels like they can't talk to Josh. But that's wild to me that they brought in somebody, which kind of works into the next question I have, which is that there were other guys out there. Now, clearly this is a third string position running the practice squad. You can't necessarily expect a guy like Ryan Tannehill to be like, yeah, let's go. But there were guys, Ryan Tannehill, Blaine Gabbert, AJ McCarron, Brian Hoyer. I don't necessarily know who Nathan Rourke is, but there's guys out there. Why Ben DiNucci? Was there any conversation or question about that? Why this guy?
Yeah, I think your first point is spot on. Is those other guys that you mentioned, they're not trying to be as good as the Bills possibly potentially could be. These guys don't want to run third team. Like they're not trying to run scout team and stuff. Like the Ryan Tannehills of the world are waiting for another 2 weeks to see that injury happen to a starting quarterback so that he can walk in and in 2 weeks be the starting quarterback at whatever franchise. So I think I don't know. No, nobody really said why was this guy, the guy. I mean, you got to remember we talked to Joe Brady today. I think that's more of a Brandon Beane question.
Yep.
Because Joe was like, Joe is in his first year as the official offensive coordinator. I don't think Joe Brady's the one saying that's the quarterback and the third string. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I just think that, to me, it must have been a match somewhere along the lines. It had to. There has to be some coaches on the staff that are familiar with him at least a little bit in order to say, hey, I think this is a guy who we could bring in. To me, one of the important things would be getting somebody that's a quick study.
Yeah.
So to me, they probably looked at him as a guy and probably got background from other coaching staffs he had been on that said, look, he can pick it up pretty quickly, because right now, more than physically, mentally is what you need. You need a guy who can come in, pick up the playbook like that, get you through a couple of weeks of the preseason.
Well, I think also, too, guys, I think the fact we don't know yet is who gets released on other teams. I mean, we could pick up another third somewhere else, if DiNucci doesn't pan out as far as the next few weeks of preseason. So I think that spot, I don't think DiNucci being on the roster by any means is solidified. We could see somebody else come in.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that is not set in stone by any. That could turn over next week.
Right. Couple more questions with you, Josh, before we let you go. But before we do, tell everybody where they can find your content, where they can find you if they want to interact with you, and all the good stuff.
Yeah. So first off, I'm the co-host of Buffalo Kickoff Live. That's the pregame show, postgame show on Channel 4. We go because it's the preseason, we're able to go right up to kickoff. There's no NFL on CBS national show. So this upcoming Saturday, we're on a half hour before kickoff. And then the last preseason game, the following Saturday, we're on an hour leading up to kickoff, right on CBS, right on Channel 4. And then we have a post-game show right on after. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @4 Josh Reed. Pretty simple, but yeah,
very good.
Appreciate that. And we try to run down everything on a daily basis. And as you guys know, and everybody watching knows, this league is something that it is a truly moving river that flows way and that way, and it's not even day to day, it's hour to hour.
So last couple questions, as I said, looking ahead to this Saturday's game against the Steelers, just thoughts on how much playing time Josh Allen and the starting offensive unit are going to get. I feel like, before you answer that question, they played in the last game because McDermott was not happy with what happened in the Jets game last year. But yeah, I think they got a half last year for that second game. So is that what you think, or maybe more?
We don't know. They haven't officially said anything. This is purely a guess. This is me just hypothetical. I would guess we could be looking at Josh and the starters for the same amount that they went last time. Get him some reps again. Get him a couple series. I'd be surprised if they go for a half, like you said they have in the past. So I would guess. To me, I don't need to see Josh. I know what Josh Allen is elite. But there's something to be said for getting his reps in with the receivers. And I feel like we gloss over it a little bit too much. Getting the reps with Connor McGovern.
Yeah.
Like that, I thought it was really, really interesting because they had trouble with the snap early in training camp. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting that Connor McGovern said that he was used to Mitch, and Mitch used to bring it to the left when he brought it. And he said, I bring it in the center. So, to me, that sounds like such a small thing, but clearly, right? Clearly.
Ask this guy.
Right? Exactly, Gary. I mean, I'm not wrong. That's a huge thing.
No, it is. And we went over this before once. And by the way, you're concerned, just that whole segment moves you up to the top. I don't know if you could ever surpass Jenna Cottrell, but you're definitely a strong second. You're definitely a strong second with that comment. Yes, I've been saying this forever, that whole McGovern playing center, it's going to take time. I know you feel he's a natural center. I know you feel he's built to do it. He was the number 1 rated center coming out of high school before he went to Penn State. Okay, we get all that, but it still takes time. And believe me, that excited me when I heard that. But yes, there are snap tendencies by centers, and a lot of times it's kind of predicated by which way the play's going. A lot of times if you're trying to reach to the left and you're going hard to the left, that snap will come out a little bit to the right. If you go to the right, sometimes it might go to the left, or depending if you're left-handed or right-handed, whatever. So, yeah, there are definitely tendencies you got to get used to. And the thing that Josh probably has to try to, and this is where the game time comes in, when you got like a 330-pound nose guard breathing over you with a stinky breath, right? The urgency's a little bit different than if you're trying to block Gable Stevenson in practice, right? The intensity gets turned up. So therefore, the center's more worried about the guys blocking as opposed to the snap. And sometimes until you have those instances, you can't trust where that position of the ball is going to be all the time. And that's a big time point, and it's definitely valid.
Yeah, one of the things that I found, once Connor brought this up, I just racked my brain. I was like, to me, that's interesting because it's not something that you think on a daily basis of. So I asked Eric Wood, one of your brethren,
right,
position, and he said that one of the other things that a lot of people don't think about is the length of your snap arm. Because it could come up further, or a quarterback may have to go up under a little bit further to get the snap. I'm like, that's not something I would ever wrap. Like, to me, that's just mind blowing. I'm thinking ball goes from ground, ball goes into quarterback hand. Move on.
Let's go.
But Eric Wood's like, no, man, like center's arm is 2 inches longer. It comes back at a different speed even.
Right. And then there's two different ways to hold the ball. There's the normal way, which I snapped, which is you hold it like a quarterback and you're basically throwing it between your legs. And now they actually, out of college, they teach a claw grip where the ball, you'll see centers, the ball stands up on the nose of the football and they claw grip it like this. And the snap, instead of being spiraled, comes out dead, almost like a Phil Necro knuckleball. And it's like, and they want that because sometimes it stops a bad snap, so you don't got that fastball that, you'll see the guy stand there and it's over their head before they even move. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different intricacies and things that go with it. So, yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, there's been a fantastic conversation, and I would like to keep it going, but for the sake of time, we've got to cut it off. Josh, this was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. I can't wait to have you on the program again. So hopefully you had a good time.
Yeah, I had a great time, and this is now. Since I'm only number 2, you guys are number 2, only because the Phil Necro reference. Anytime a knuckleballer, Phil Necro, who pitched for my Cleveland Guardians back when they were Phil Necro, that was my guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
ladies,
my car's apparently getting broken into.
That or your wife's outside opening and closing the car door like, let's go.
That's hysterical. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned into On the Beat on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. It was so good to have you. Please like, please subscribe. Please tune into everything that Josh does. For me, for Jerry, for John, Fina, for all of us here at Overreaction. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.